allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have a moment of silence for all the first responders who have I've heard this month? Been a busy month. The minutes of the November 14th meeting are in the packet and they were sent out. Does anybody have any changes to those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The only thing I've reported is the last meeting I'm the chair for. Thank you all for all your service and firefighters, all their service. And for all you do. Chief?
So, a lot of our time in the last month has been spent on budget preparation. We will be having our first budget review, which is with First Selectman and his staff on this Monday, December 16th. In regards to firefighter hiring, HR is not finished with their investigation and we're awaiting their word.
Do we have any idea?
I haven't gotten any direction.
We're down 3 right now, right?
It would be 3 positions at this point.
Yeah.
Let's see, in regards to the radio, the remote microphones are in. They're awaiting Norcom to program them, so a week, but Norcom just scheduled that. We're still waiting. Let's see, we've scheduled the assistant chief and lieutenant's exams for the first 2 weeks of March, and we've given everybody notice so that they can plan. We did give them a general idea, but at least now we told them the assistant chiefs what we theirs is. We bring out the date.
How many assistant chief vacancies do we have?
Right now, currently 2, and they're being filled by individuals.
They're not because of the acting, all right?
Well, one would be and one would be because of the retirement of Chief Sherwood,
Okay.
right? That's Tennessee and I, yeah. Oh, so it's both, I'm sorry, yeah. Let's see, and we had, okay, sorry. So we do have to give the exams because contractually each year in March, every 2 years in March, we have to give exams for lieutenant and assistant chief, and this and that.
Right, so what I'm confused about are the 2 new deputy positions
One new deputy,
and one's yours.
one would be mine, that's it, it's one
Right.
deputy and one mine.
2 acting.
So has it been determined already that these are permanent positions? I don't mean people, I mean positions.
That's a question for the town. I don't have.
The 2 deputy chief positions that we have now. Actually, I guess it would just be 1. Has that been determined that that is going to be permanent?
We intend to place that in the budget in the upcoming year.
Okay. Well, I was just trying to figure out how everything is plan out. Because
We
we
need to do
have,
the test, no matter how many positions.
Yes,
right,
it's just in anticipation, but it's also contractual.
Right, contractually, we need to do the test.
but
And we,
then we also, we know there's the chief's position, which is,
September 30th,
right, but then there's also the deputy chief's position.
March 31st,
So
2000.
then would we be preparing for two deputy chiefs?
Don't know.
Right. Because of the one thing, but there is a possibility that we may be looking at two deputy chiefs.
And we have to clarify with HR and then through purchasing and legal
Right. Okay,
to do all that.
all right, it makes sense in my mind. Thank you. Sorry, chief.
no. We lifted the burn ban that we had put in place during the drought, and I think you saw that in public media. We we had some PSAs we put out for Thanksgiving for turkey fryer, issue, which it probably could have been used by a certain resident
Great.
near us who burned down a house. It's true. So it was not in Fairfield, but it's a very dangerous thing, so we are at least see the media on that. So we also have we just put out something for Christmas on, Christmas tree safety. The fire department is taking place in the Vision Zero pledge in town for aim is to reduce traffic. Safer traffic and pedestrian safety. So the fire department is joining the town agencies tomorrow for a presser. We will also sign the pledge. In the emergency management sector, we have an upcoming December 18th event, which is going to be held at Sacred Heart University West Campus, and it's called Building Stronger Collaborations Between Faith-Based Organizations, Community Groups, and Municipalities in the Wake of Disasters. So it's a region-wide meeting. It's taking place in Fairfield, but we will be participating with some town personnel, like they're sitting at this table, but also the police department, CERT, and some other town agencies, and also we've sent the invite out to all of our email contacts that we have in the Constitution campaign, so we sent it out to them and to all the private and public schools, so that their personnel, if they wish to, they can also join it. So let's see, and that is my
Chief, what was the thing at on the Post Road over the weekend, at the shopping center?
Heritage Square.
So I kind of left that for my operations deputy,
Okay.
and I think he will report on that, yes. I don't know who's next, which one was it?
Well, the way it's written, it's a little bit strange, but we're in order. I can give you an update on personnel and some events that we had planned over the last month. We have firefighter Dolan now in a provisional lieutenant position, which he has served in the past, due to the vacancy created by Lieutenant Inati going to assistant chief. So Dolan will be in that capacity. We have an agreement motion to refill those positions. We're also very happy to report that we had 4 of our probationary firefighters complete their probationary process, did very well on their exams, on their written and practical. A true credit to them and all those that prepared them for their positions. So that's firefighters Corinne Valenzano, firefighter Andrew Campo, Jeff Sturgis, and Nick Santaniello. Great job by them, and they're continuing to do good work for us. A couple of planning events that we had made preparations for a SantaCon event, which we got intelligence saying that it was coming. It is an unsanctioned event, as we all know. It's very chaotic in that area of the beach. We combined with the police department, AMR, notified area hospitals. This event is expected to occur in the state. We staffed some of our Gator fast response UTVs. Between the career department and volunteer departments, we had a total of 9 staff on that event to manage and treat the various medical calls that were there. We had about 20 persons that were treated at the beach location. There were many others throughout town. Everyone did a good job managing that out. The other event that we had was the tree lighting, which was, turns out nobody was getting treated or transported for any party or alcohol induced event there. So that went off very nicely, Mr. and Mrs. Cross.
Can I just, and if we don't have this, this is not a, like, do we have any type of analysis to say, what the extra cost was for the town for like fire and emergency services for SantaCon?
We have the staffing costs that we did with that, and we are getting reimbursement from universities. to
Okay,
Manage that. They realize that although it's an unsanctioned event, that
yeah,
it is an impact to the town and the town services.
okay.
We've offered certain portions of reimbursement so far. We are compiling the entire picture of it and we'll from there where we go, but we have police, fire, and plus there with a significant number of people. So we're putting the whole picture together. So even just as a resident, at some point, you're gonna hear that number because it's gonna come out.
Which is great, and they are, I mean, they're huge tenants or residents of the town themselves, so like we gotta like, there's good and bad to having Fairfield area universities here, right? But I think like, if we're getting reimbursed, or you all are, and we're keeping it flat to like cost the town, that's a, you know.
It's to be determined if it's a flat cost. There is a, you know,
Does the university pay taxes?
No.
So
Nonprofit.
See where that's at.
No, but Dave, what is the,
Yeah, and that's I would just caution that is that's a topic and there's obviously, I mean, it's been in the papers and whatnot. There's attorneys, you know, and involved potentially, things like that. So I would just caution. We're still formulating our costs and part of the reason that we don't have all of that even just right away is there were a lot of personnel that were there. Police department in particular had a lot of personnel that were tied up at various times, including the traffic unit. We're compiling as far down to, even salaried personnel and their vehicles and what the actual cost is, which is how a FEMA event would be as an example. So that takes a little bit of time to
Sure.
go through.
Absolutely.
I'm not asking, I'm like encouraged to hear that that's all, and that the Fairfield U wants to cover that cost, which, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that, but just the fact that we're trending towards that is encouraging.
We offer portions so far.
Well, it's different.
it's been worked out.
We work on it.
I did have a question because somebody mentioned, does the university pay taxes? I know it doesn't, but there is, and I can't think of the name of, yeah, the pilot program where we get money from, I guess, from the state because of the amount of
Lost revenues.
lost revenues
I understand.
from the 2 universities.
And the economic studies that show those universities overall contribute way more to our economy and
Right.
other businesses, et cetera, existing because of.
And there were students from colleges all over. So they just came, the whole football team from Wesleyan was there,
Yeah, there were-
according to someone told me that, but I didn't talk to them. But
Talked to Jim Calamaris and
the 3 students from Union College.
the
upstate.
university kids that were there for the most part were not a problem at all.
Right.
It was all visitors. Now, having lived there and going in, I've lived there for 30 years. Going in and out, there was a lot of success with what you did in advance. Because the thing that I was impressed with is the several thousand maybe kids that I saw leaving the beach early in the day sober. because they were getting out and giving up. Now, that doesn't mean there weren't problems with others, but there were streams of kids up Reef, Roland, Beach that were just leaving. So that was a success in that sense.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. On to me. So first thing I'll touch on is the facilities. I'm working very closely with DPW James Ryan on the ventilation projects in an effort to improve air quality. That was done by a study by the town. So Station 4 and 3 are getting new hood systems to make them a little bit safer when people are cooking, and also the vent to the exterior of the building. Station 3, all the ductwork is in place at the basement, all just wirings and controls. It's also monitoring conditions on the apparatus floor if our in-place exhaust systems are not functioning as they should, and there's carbon dioxide buildup. It will activate those systems. Station 2 will continue this Saturday. The masonry contractor will be there, and he'll be making some holes to ventilate the plenum spaces up above, so help with some of the moisture issues that have been going on there. Station 5 developed an issue this past week where we had a very substantial leak in the basement from one of the showers. I met DPW out there. They put a Band-Aid on it, but it's a light fix to a larger problem. The stations are getting older and older and older, and they've been patchwork together, and it's unfortunately sometimes the patchwork is not gonna work anymore, so that's something we're gonna work with DPW on. Overhead door project is mostly finished, a couple outstanding issues, no big deal. Recent incidents, we assisted the police department Stanford Bomb Squad on an incident in Southport. I'm sure you read in the paper. Sometimes when they have something that's could be an incident, they'll call us, and we'll stand by. We meet with them and provide some type of support, whether it be fire or emergency medicine. Should unfortunately go off, but everything went smoothly and taken care of. We had the fire at Heritage Square, which you spoke about before. That was a fire in a stairwell, spread into the stairwell. Fortunately, companies were on it pretty quick, got a line in place fast, kept that from extending more than the stairwell. Cause of that investigation still under investigation by the Washington Division Police Department. Next thing we had was a water main break on North Benson Road, which anybody who uses that understands how significant that was. Originally thought to be a 24-inch break in a 24-inch water main. After hours and hours of digging and searching the road, they found that it was the main on the other side of the road, which was a 10-inch. So we were on it pretty quickly. It started in I think 10 o'clock in the morning or so, somewhere in there. And myself and the two chiefs, we went out there and met with Aquarion and members from the university. And one of the issues that happened was the university lost water in a portion of it. So a decision was made with the Fire Marshal's Division to provide a fire standby up there due to the fact that those dormitories were occupied without the benefit of fire protection system. So we worked with the university on that. We're able to at least keep the kids in where they need to be safe. But we had standby crews there till a little past 2 in the morning. So it was a long break, and the crews that were working there, not just for us, but for the construction company, Aquarity, worked as hard as they could to get that repaired. And then the last thing I want to talk about call-wise was an EMS call that we had down off of Kings Highway. A lot of stuff that we do that we prepare for, sometimes you use in different situations. In this particular situation, we had a patient who was in cardiac arrest, and lieutenant who was first on scene called for the ladder truck immediately. And instead of just using it to help carry him out, they set that device up and were able to take that patient out over the aerial ladder, which was the quickest, most efficient way to do it and give that patient the greatest success for survivability. I don't know the patient's status, but I wanted to commend the crew for thinking outside the box, which I think that might be that guy over there I was thinking. But, all the crews there worked pretty hard. The Kings Highway call, the EMS call.
Oh, yeah. It worked good. Not for the guy.
And it's
He was in rough shape.
times like that where you take something that you learned from somewhere else and you apply it to something else, but quick thinking on their feet was able to give that patient a dose. And then our new engine, we held a brought the apparatus design committee together and we were finalizing the last little components of that truck. We expect to see that in May. Probably we'll do a final inspection in February. So hopefully we'll get that truck up.
Any questions?
I do have a question on
Yeah.
something in the packet. And I don't know who wants to answer it. It's in the fire marshal's report. And basically it's just to make sure for the attention of the commission. If you go to, there's no page numbers, but large projects. And you look. 575 new apartments being built in town. Is what's on there.
That might not be all of them.
Oh, I know, but those are the ones that jumped out on me, you know, right here. I'm like, wait a minute, 7191. I mean, what are we, I mean, and that doesn't include the 110 hotel room. You know, that's just the 250 apartments there. And this is why, one of the reasons why we need to make sure that the department keeps up with the demand. Because not only do we have apartments, those are more people driving on the roads, those are more EMS calls, those are more everything. That's gonna tax the department. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention. I mean, that's 575, that's a lot coming in at
As
one
you well know,
time.
operationally, house fire is much different than a house
Oh,
fire.
yeah.
It's 4 stories up.
Yep, absolutely.
Requires a lot more manpower, requires a lot of stuff to go into place to make that operation go smoothly. And also those need to be inspected yearly by the fire marshal.
Right,
So
exactly.
it's another tax.
And that's why I know I've been fighting since I got here, to increase the manpower in the fire marshal's office. And I just have a question, because 219 Ash Creek. I can't place it. Where's 219 Ash Creek
It's
going?
gonna be Ash Creek Boulevard.
Oh, down by the,
Railroad station.
yeah, okay, down there, yep.
There's
got it.
already there's a building going on right there.
Yep.
They paused it a little bit,
Yep.
but they've started.
The old Metro Center, or whatever they're calling it. this-
Yeah, it's on the back side of the water.
Okay, all right, I was just, you know, I was thinking, you know, off of Grassmere and everywhere else. Where are they gonna stick this, but okay. All right, that's my only questions so far in the packet.
Any other questions? Sir?
Nora's here.
Ms. Peterson?
You're on mute.
There, yes,
Yes.
There I am. Thank you. Yeah, I had just a quick report. In November, we had officer elections and we also had an annual meeting with a team building exercise with led by Assistant Chief Gamola. And then this month, actually next week, we're providing mutual aid for regarding traffic and pedestrian support for a toy drive. And that's mostly what's happened recently.
Thank you for the report and thank you for all you do for the town.
Most welcome.
Is the Southport Volunteer Fire Department here? Stratfield?
Yeah, I don't know if you wanna do your other business first, so mine's gonna take a while. I don't know if someone else has to go.
Is there any objection?
How many apartments did you say, Joe?
What's it? 575, just on that one page.
I got the updated ones and I've got it at like close to 1,000.
I believe it. Those were the ones,
An inside source,
yeah.
moles everywhere. All right, I need help. I know I need help. I take it back. I know that I. You're right, but. For you? Yes.
Like what I was doing.
Okay, this is the GIS study. You've seen it before. The ones we've had before have been kind of like a PowerPoint. Our new system allows us to do it more, and it's off our website here, and it's interactive. Uh-oh,
Hey, John?
here we go. Now it's working. Okay, so we had this done by the International Association of Firefighters. They employ GIS experts. There's a system that these are done by. So anyone who does these there's a methodology to it that's the accepted standard practice. So we use the GIS. We took the CAD data, which came from the town, NFPA standards. And you can read the rest there. I'm not gonna read everything to you. What this allows us to do is to click back and forth to where anything that we bring up, we can then show you the link to where it came from. I'll get to that in a second. Current staffing and deployment. You can see there what we do. I think everyone here knows that. We have 5 fire stations, 5 engines, a ladder, a rescue command car. Everybody has 3 on a piece, except for engine 5, which has 4 after an arbitration award, and the assistant chief has an aide for 2 people in their car. That brings total staffing to 24 people on the line. Okay, here's what came out of the report. Besides engine 5, nothing else complies with NFPA 1500 or 1710. The footnotes are available at the end. What we did find in this is after the 2020 census, which is the newest census data that we put in, a lot of Fairfield has changed in its designations. Where we used to be urban and suburban, we are now densely urban and urban with only one district still being suburban. And those, when I get to those maps, it'll show you what the classifications are in area per square mile. Our call volume, between 2018 and 2023, January 1st, so we took a 5-year snapshot. We went to 54,000 incidents with 86,000 unit responses. Since 2018 to today, there have been 7% increases in incidents and 8% increase in unit responses. So forgive me if you know the difference, but when we go to a call, there's one call generated. There might be one truck going to it, or there could be all 7 pieces of apparatus. So each one of those would be a unit response. Highest concentration of incidents are at 1s and 2s and just north of 3s and 4s. I'm going to show you a map now that's going to show what we meet and how the coverage is. So you're gonna have to bear with me a second, because all this is gonna make sense as we go further down. So what we did is we broke this up into everything. We have our current staffing, and we went with NFPA minimum staffing. That would be 4 people per piece. And you have NFP, that minimum staffing is what you have to have. Then they have recommended staffing. Recommended staffing, when you talk about densely urban, is 6 firefighters to an apparatus, and urban is 5. So we did with recommended staffing. Then we added a 6th station with minimum staffing, so that would be 4 people at that station. Then we went recommended staffing with a 6th station. A brief overview, and again, we'll get into it in detail. First thing I put here, because it's come up a whole bunch, so I had them add this line, is just a 4-minute response. These are the places we can get to, how much of the town we can get to within 4 minutes.
With how many people?
This is just 4 minutes. This is like, we had talked before about putting motorcycles out there. This is just how many people we can, this is how many trucks can get to a call.
First piece of apparatus.
Yes. So you got 48% of the town is covered. If you went with a 6th station, we have 55% of the town covered. So the difference of adding the station would be 14% increase. That makes sense so far? So if you put another station in, this is the increase of the town that you're covered, you're going from,
7%.
6.5 or 7%.
well, the increase is 14%. You're covering 7% more of the town, but the increase because
Oh, it's a percentage.
as a
Yeah,
percentage
I
increase.
Oh, okay, yep.
So that's your net gain is 14%. 2 in, 2 out. Remember the 2 in, 2 out, we talk about it as far as fires, but that's any ideal H atmosphere. A water rescue is an ideal H atmosphere. You need 2 in, 2 out to make a water rescue. Carbon monoxide, 2 in, 2 out. Natural gas, 2 in, 2 out. Confined space, 2 in, 2 out. Anything that has an ideal H atmosphere requires a 2 in, 2 out response. See, at our current staffing, we cover 35% of the town. 2 in, 2 out. That's District 5, 4 minutes within Station 5, 4 minutes within Station 1, 4 minutes within Station 2. The places that we cover. If you went to minimum staffing for all our pieces, you go to 48% of the town, which matches up with the responses you see above because we didn't add any trucks, we added people. So now we're at plus 39% of 2 in, 2 out by adding another firefighter to each piece of apparatus. The recommended staffing, that number is not gonna change because we're still talking about 2 in, 2 out. So if it has 4 people or 10 people, it's still 2 in, 2 out is met. You add a 6th station, you get to that same 55% that you see above. Now it's 2 in, 2 out because we did the projection with 4 people on that 6th engine. Stop me at any time. I know what I mean, so if you don't, let me know. Then you see a recommended staffing. So those numbers don't change. The change you see here for 2 in, 2 out is from 3 people on a truck to 4 people on a truck. 6-minute ladder, we only have 1 ladder, so that number never changes. That's what the standard is to getting a ladder on scene. So we got 35% of the town covered. It matches up with, because there's only 1 truck. Doesn't change. The low hazard alarm. The low hazard alarm is a single family house, smaller than 2,000 square feet, that has no basement and no exposures. Imagine there's not a lot of those houses in town. I'm gonna show you a map that's gonna look like there's a lot of them in there, but that's because the town's data that was provided to us to geolocate every property in town doesn't include basements, so I couldn't work it in because it would have just been guesswork. It's not on the property card, so we couldn't get it. So for a low hazard alarm, the initial alarm assignment is 17 people and you need to be there within 8 minutes. So this is where it gets your bang for your buck. Right now, for 17 people within 8 minutes, we cover 3% of the town. By adding 1 person to each piece of apparatus, well, almost all of them, because 5's already has 4. So every other piece of apparatus, you get to 32% of the town covered for that low alarm fire of 17 people on duty. That's almost 1,000% increase. If you go to recommended staffing, see the number jumps significantly. 6th station with minimum staffing, you see the number goes up a lot from minimum staffing at 1710. But I think this is important for our discussions about man versus station, is if you look, if you just put 4 people on, we cover 56% of the town. If we did everybody in the right, enough people in the trucks that are there. If you go with another station and 4 people on it, the number actually goes down some from the recommended staffing with just 5 stations. Then you have obviously the increase if you put the proper staffing in all the stations.
Are these percentages purely geographical or are they geographical and population?
It's geographic, so it's the area covered. So because the calls move,
Right.
you can't do real scientific data for the calls in particular because You're just going by, I can't say that we can get to 32% of the calls because they change. So it's geographic coverage of the town, and it'll show you on the map how that translates. The maps will show you what happens when you increase the staffing in the trucks. But you'll also see, there's a heat map that shows you where our calls are, and you'll see that our stations are kind of on top of them. Other than Threes is a little south of where the majority of their calls are. Medium hazard, 26 firefighters on the initial alarm assignment. Currently, we can protect 0% of the town. So you guys were talking about all the new buildings going in. They're all medium hazards at least. And our current protection level for those buildings is 0. We cannot provide that minimum standard. If we add people to every single truck, we can cover 2%. Recommended staffing, and you can see where the staffing comes in, you get to 31%. 6 station and 4 people brings you from 0 to 5%. And because it at least allows us to have 26 people on duty, which we don't have now. Then you have 6 station with recommended staffing. Now, I'm gonna digress for just a second. We realize that that's not something that's gonna happen probably in my lifetime. We're not putting 6 people on trucks, so that requires a huge, that would be monumental. But when I show you these maps, you'll see why this isn't voodoo science. It shows you what happens when you add what the computer says to add. High hazard. High hazard is anything greater than 75 feet high, anything more than 100. It's gonna come up so you can double fact check me after, but 196,000 square feet. Anything that's either of those or both then becomes a high hazard alarm. It's supposed to have 39 people within 10 minutes and 10 seconds. Again, it's coming up later, but fact check me. Okay, here's the recommendations that came out of the GIS study. Short term, less than 2 years, should get to 4 people on all staff, on all apparatus. Fund additional personnel needed to staff to recommended staffing levels. And the fire department should acquire land to build a new station near the intersection of Fairfield Woods and Stilson Road. Now, I worked with the GIS guy for a long time. Because the computer put the station there and I said, well, try it here and try it there. The computer is smarter than us, so no matter what I told it to do, it brought it back to where it should go. Yes.
What was like, that, as you know, that extremely interests me. What was like the variables that were put in to decide like?
It's gonna be how much more of the town is covered, and then it considers the heat map so that you're putting it closer to the calls.
Okay.
So it was the best way to cover the most streets, but it also, I'm gonna just scroll back up here for a second. It also calculates it into all of these other charts, right? So
Okay.
if you put it too far away, then it doesn't add into the 8 minutes for the low hazard, or the 8 minutes for the medium hazard, or the 10 minutes and 10 seconds for the other one. So it calculates a number of factors to put that's why I kept looking at it and saying, to me, it smells like it should be over there. But this is where it gets.
No, which is great, cause like that's what I think we've all been saying, so that.
Yeah,
I
so
appreciate this very much.
and that's what I was trying to explain before, and I don't think I did that great of a job of it, is that there's just a way that these are done. There isn't, I don't decide, you don't decide, company A versus company B doesn't decide. There's a standard for how these are done, and the mapping software is done the same everywhere because they have to have a standard. So you see here that medium term, do all the stuff that's in the short term. Suppression apparatus should go up to recommended staffing.
Before you go on.
Yeah.
Out in that 6 station.
Yeah.
The location where you said, those numbers reflect leaving all the other stations where they are.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So, but this is what's, I think, important for you going forward as well. So I talked to the GIS study, so I said, why here at the 2 to 4 years are you building a new station? He said, because if you're not building it within 2 to 4 years, that data, that might not be the place to put it, right? So if you're gonna build a station 10 years from now, finding out now where to put it is just, well, that works for today. To what you were saying earlier, Joe, you had 205, I got 1,000 units by my calculations. That could change all of these numbers. And 5 more years from now, we don't know where anything else is gonna be. That could move that station. So the way that he explained that these things are normally done are, you decide you're gonna do it, you get the money for it, and then you start to work on where to put it, where to buy, what you can buy, and stuff like that. You don't start off with, put it here, and then 15 years from now, think about building it there, because then, by then, you're already, your data might be no good, or not optimal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have one more question, if you
Sure.
don't mind, I hate going off.
No, that's okay.
So how would the numbers change? Instead of putting the new station there, the 6th station, but adding an engine out of station 2, so now you're running 2 engines out of 2 with 4-man each on it.
It would change, the numbers that would change would be, it would be in this cursor up there, it would be in this part here, because you're getting closer to recommended staffing.
Mhm.
Right, so it would affect within 4 minutes and 8 minutes of station 2. That's what it would change. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, in my
Still
head,
had traffic.
figure out, and again, the buildings are a whole nother issue, whether you could fit extra trucks in them, but, while the new proposed building is gonna get built, we know there's gonna be a truck in it. So can we get the truck earlier to run out of 2s?
Well, the thing there is that then your truck's 10 years old by the time you're building it too, so.
You're working it into the rotation.
Yeah, I don't know how they'd work those numbers in, but the numbers that from my limited knowledge of this, that it would change would be what's in 4 and 8 minutes of the station you put them in.
Politics and everything else aside, it's quicker to put another fire truck into a building than it is to build a new firehouse.
Right, but even faster is to go up to proper staffing, because now you got the people.
Right.
And you don't have to buy a truck. We're even cheaper than trucks.
The
Short term.
will the current apparatus that we have hold the,
6 people?
yeah, anything? So now the next question is, are the new apparatus that we're looking to buy, as we keep buying new stuff, are we taking that into consideration?
I don't do any of the purchasing, but I wouldn't think so, because by the time that you're talking about us getting up to 6 people on a truck, we haven't filled in 4 people on a truck yet. Who knows what kind we'll be driving by then. I think that's so, I put those numbers in because they belong in here and you should see what they do. But the chances of that happening in the next decade are nearly impossible.
I'm just trying to come up.
Even with the most friendly.
And I hate this term, but I'm just trying to come up with a quick fix to get more people with the amount of building that we got going. Just come up with a way to get more personnel.
You can
where we
fit
need
4
to be.
on all of them.
There's seating for 6.
There is seat, well, there's not room for 6.
Yeah, okay, I understand
We
that.
could put bums in seats, but they're not gonna be comfortably bummed.
All right.
But certainly we plan for 4 on everything and everything.
Well, I know
Well,
that.
before you go on, medium,
Minivan.
go back to medium, because you did not talk about the 3rd bullet.
This is what you're supposed to do every couple of years is a workload study. I mean, if the thing you're supposed to do is a community risk assessment. So you find out what you're doing, how much of it you're doing, what criteria you are meeting, which criteria you are not meeting, and then you're supposed to come up with a plan to fix it the following year. Then you're supposed to come back, look at your community risk assessment, go through it, see if you did better or worse than what you do to change the plan. That's a NFPA standard as well. All right, now I'm gonna get to my pretty maps. So the first one, when you do risk assessment, you find out the population at risk. So you have your That's what I was talking about earlier. So you got densely urban. From threes down through twos, halfway through ones. 3/4 of the way through ones. Then you got urban, which is the rest of ones, all in District 4. Suburban is District 5. And then the what equals urban, densely urban, suburban is right there. So those numbers aren't gonna change anywhere other than this map's gonna keep getting darker. Populations under 5 years old. These are risk factors. So you have children, elderly, disabled people. So we took these numbers out, showed you the maps where those people are. Again, you can look at these concentrations and they kind of match along our little route here. Older than 65. Households below the poverty line. This one was surprising to me. That we have a part of town that's living 10 to 13% of it is below the poverty line. A lot of assisted living in there, that's probably where most of that comes from. Vacant housing. Although we had, that was Messenger here. 13 years ago. We had a bunch of vacant houses get lit up by an arsonist. But we don't have, vacancies don't mean the same thing in Fairfield that they do in Bridgeport. Right? Our vacancies are houses waiting to be sold, not houses sitting there that nobody wants and are falling apart, dilapidated for the most part. Your population density is where we started. Okay, so building classifications, I know I went over this before, but I'll go through it one more time. Single family, no basements, no exposures less than 2,000 square feet, 17 firefighters, 8 minutes.
Bill, clarify no exposures, please.
No exposure means no house within 30 feet.
Okay.
So
So
houses that are closer than
none
that,
of the beach would qualify.
right. Your neighborhood, my neighborhood do not all have exposures. So none of those, even though they'll be on this map, because again, the property cards don't give me distance to the next house. So even though I know it, because I can't quantify it, I can't put it in the report. Medium hazards, this is the majority of the town, more than 2,000 square feet. With an exposure basement or smaller with an exposure basement, up to 196,000 square feet. Let's fact check properly. 26 firefighters, 8 minutes. High hazard, taller than 75 feet. High hazard occupancy, schools, hospitals, nursing home, industrial facilities. Greater than 96,000 square feet, 75 feet or taller. 39 firefighters, 10 minutes, 10 seconds.
Hold on one second, if we don't know this number, that's fine. Do we know how many high-rise buildings that are taller than 75 feet right now in town?
One of the maps will show you everything that qualifies as high hazard.
Too many.
Oh, too many.
So I'm gonna show you, in the next map, you'll see a color coding, which will show you the red is the high hazards.
Thank you.
That's okay. So. Well, let me move it around, sorry. They have,
Bill, so you sort of shrink that down a little bit, in the upper corner, you'll see arrows like pointing in the upper right corner, I think, which will get rid of that building occupancy type thing.
this,
No, it's,
usually I can move the map around.
Yeah,
there it is. That's what he's talking about in the upper right.
Yeah, hit that, and now you can interact with it.
Yeah, that doesn't do it, yeah, it's not. It doesn't move the way I like.
Not get dizzy.
So. I need that thing back though, Pat, I'm sorry.
You just hit that little arrow thing back and it goes back to it. You probably move Norma.
Yeah, you probably just grab that box and move it to the other side.
All right, I'm gonna leave it here for a second. You got a big map there. Red's up there. So your schools, don't have an exact number on them.
That's okay, I wasn't expecting.
So you see a lot of this is residential, commercial, educational, government. You got your occupancy type. Here you see the reds.
That's green.
Stand by.
That's where they're growing their marijuana farms these days.
I just saw the green section down by the beach.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, down,
Well, it's under his thing now.
Alright. This isn't moving like it normally does, so I apologize.
Alright, fine.
So here's your hazard levels. So
Yellow,
There was a green.
They're under the NFP standard things, or like right around where medium hazard building should be.
So these are all, anything you see here, these are residential houses, but they're all bigger than 2,000 square feet. That's why they come up as medium hazard. But to your point, Commissioner Brennan. If you bring it in here, you can see that these are considered low. Right? This one, this one, this one. Those houses are 10 or 15 feet apart. So by real classification, they're medium hazard. If we have a fire here,
right,
When you drive through those neighborhoods, you know
it's a
they're.
bunch of houses.
yeah, it's the risk of the street going up.
So I just want to make a comment. All these numbers get tossed out the window. Right before a building fire, you get a vehicle accident.
Oh, yeah. So,
This is best case scenario, nothing else happening
so
in town.
the response,
only incident.
and it'll show you at the end, the criteria that's used. So we want to present the true case, just like anybody else who does it, because that's where you get your credibility from. So we've taken best case scenarios. This is everybody's in quarters and ready to go. Because that's what, as you saw earlier, when you're doing 15,000 unit responses, you can just do the math out of how many minutes are in a day and how many hours are in a week and whatnot, see that that isn't very often. The other thing is we just took a random, the traffic got more accurate this time than the last time I gave it to you because they take 3 years of traffic data. The last one I had included COVID when no one was on the road, so I get a little bit further in that data because the traffic was less.
There you go, that was the best part. No, it looks like the red's showing up better there.
Yep,
There you go.
you got like, that's Bigelow there,
Yep.
high school. Bunch of ones at Sacred Heart, because that keeps getting bigger.
And where's, near the train station formerly known as Metro? Some of those buildings, I think would,
That's over here,
yeah, okay, thank you.
there. So their call volume. So this is showing you year over year. Here's the incidents in 2018, 2023, unit responses. So then I can take it and show you, this is just now this is just 2023.
So if you stay here on the one above that, right? 1819, that town doesn't exist anymore. That's,
Correct.
if COVID never happened, we're flat across. 20 we go down because it's COVID. 21 ticks up a little bit over 19, because that's when people really started buying the houses, 22, 23.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's, and I don't think,
Yeah, so when you see that 7% increase, it isn't gradual.
yeah.
It's really 21, 22, 23 is where 22 and 23, you can see it just keep going up. And then when you add 1,000 more units, you're gonna.
And that's the population, it's not gonna dip now. It might not accelerate at the way it did, I don't know, I mean, I'm not, but I don't think it's gonna go back to 2018, 2009. If you went to 17, 16, 15, I would assume it would all look similar. And then 20 dips because of COVID, then it comes up because of what we experience here in real estate.
Well, and the Board of Education typically, I've never been involved in town of Fairfield, does population increase estimates in great detail because they're mapping them to school locations. And that may,
We pulled their data during arbitration.
okay,
The town used United Van Lines to say that everyone was moving out of town. We used the Board of Ed to, well, they might not have been telling.
yeah, and they already pay for updates to that periodically, so it's a resource.
So here you have your here's your heat map, shows you where the calls are. So this is what I was saying before about locations. You can see that we're kind of on top of the heat, other than Sacred Heart.
Station, Station 4. The Station 4, what is up there?
Here,
Is that the convalescent home that's called?
nursing home, there's an assisted living facility.
Right, okay, the new Central Hill Terrace,
Yeah,
okay, I was like, what is causing that?
okay, so now we're gonna go through the staffing scenarios, and these maps will then populate as we do it. Move the sixth station out of the way currently, so this puts it in, that takes it out. Okay, 4-minute coverage, this is what we talked about with the current stations. No personnel, this is the trucks that we talked about before. It's just trucks going places. This is where they get within 4 minutes. Then you add this, the sixth station, you just pick up the 4 minutes around that station. That's if you had one person on it. Now you have 2 in, 2 out. Current map. So 5's picked up only because we added the guy. This used to be blank at the last presentation I gave. So now with the guy, that's what else we cover. When you go to 4 people on everything, that's what the town looks like. So you're covering 3s and 4s. You don't see an increase in station 1 or 2 because they already 2 in, 2 out because there's 2 pieces of apparatus. Makes sense? So that's why that map doesn't change anywhere else. 6-minute ladder coverage, we talked about, that doesn't change because the ladders, there's only one and it doesn't move. Low hazard alarm. So currently, to get where we can get 17 people within 8 minutes is the streets you see right there. Mill Plain Road, or backside of the university. 4 people on a truck, that's where we go to. So you can see, if you go back and remember the heat map I showed you of where all the calls are, that's where that coverage picks up a ton by adding 1 person to each truck. Recommended staffing, just because it's fun. Now you're covering more than half the town for that low hazard fire. That's without, with. Now, a 4th person, 4 people in a 6th truck You go up to this percentage here.
Verify what you just said, please.
Okay, so this is with a sixth station at Gilson and
Okay.
Fairfield Woods with 4 people on it. So the difference is between this and that.
Pick up all of that.
So now if you go to, this doesn't change very much at all, but that's just adding proper staffing to all of it. Medium hazard response. Currently, all the shaded in stuff is what we cover. Nothing. We get 4 people on each truck, that's what we cover. Recommended staffing. Again, you get into that heat map, this is where a ton of those low hazard alarms are going, right? You know, the medium hazard buildings are being built along this corridor as it is. Minimum staffing, if you add the 6th station, this is what you pick up. So the difference with that 6th station and 4 people on the truck is the difference between this and that. There's not a significant increase in the coverage by a 6th station. High hazard, none. If you staffed all the trucks as much as you could, it's that. The only thing that makes a difference is if you put all those people on all those trucks and add a truck, then you can get to this coverage here. So I know I mentioned it earlier, but although this isn't going to happen, it's not realistic for us in the near future. It shows you the difference that staffing makes as opposed to just trucks. That's with trucks. That's with staffing. That's what changes these numbers. Conclusion is the stuff we've been talking about. Here, quick, here's your methodology, as I mentioned. Moderate, the travel speeds Wednesday at 5 o'clock. These are all the things you mentioned. Traffic stuff, that's gonna slow, there's a bunch of things that could slow us down. Weather, work zones, special events like SantaCon, traffic control devices, inadequate road or transit capacity. I don't know if anyone's driven around town, but the traffic isn't getting better. Weather conditions, impediments.
What's kind of most disconcerting is that you need the most firefighters to respond to just the type of projects that are being built now,
Yes.
these large.
Yep.
This just goes through the details of what goes into and the stuff that they have for. Can I move this bar up here? Can't get back.
I'm trying to get back to. The acting chief of
The original one, because it's under here though. Oh, there, I found it, the little sliver right there.
Delegate job.
Major winners, don't you advance.
Fire growth, you've seen the videos before. 1500 and 1710 minimum standards. These show you the difference in fire attack. These are all done from NIST studies. So we got, a 3-man company is 12% less efficient than 4-man. 2 is ridiculously bad. Same thing on the ladder side.
Can the fire marshal consider these factors when the 830G permits come to them?
So you have,
We've had conversations that we can comment beyond the code to begin to educate the public.
what I thought was interesting in this part is that in 2018, 44% of all firefighter fatalities were overexertion. I believe that just after the North Haven incident happened, I read to you all here a number of studies that showed that crew size affects exertion rates. There's some charts to demonstrate it some more that show you the difference between 4%, when you have 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. Average working heart rates. And if you want to talk dollars and cents, the quicker you put out a fire, the less it costs. 2 in, 2 out, we've explained ad nauseum. Typical low hazards,
Low hazard's no basement, right?
no basement.
So that's like 12 houses.
So it's
Or it's at the beach.
Area, yeah.
firefighting
Going
in,
up to the-
firefighting in general has
That's under.
just task oriented. It's like burning a house down is the same as building a house. Certain amount of people to do certain things. You need plumbers, you need electricians, you need carpenters, framers, finish carpenters. If you don't have one, somebody else either has to do it or it doesn't get done. So the reason that I had him put this video in, because when you don't have enough people for ladders, there's someone missing. The guy footing that ladder. Save you a little trouble. There goes the second guy up.
Yeah.
There ain't 3 people.
Cops are watching nicely.
A lot of white helmets, no offense.
Bunch of guys hanging out on the ground.
Oh, yeah, I knew that was gonna happen.
What's a white helmet?
Chiefs.
It's the guys who aren't helping the PowerPoint.
The same guys that are wearing the white shirts.
So, so the point is that you can't do more with less. You can only do less with less. And it leads to, and I can pull up any NIOSH report you want. It's gonna point, one of the things it's gonna point to is manpower. These are buildings that look like buildings in town. We had some of these. Any other questions?
No, this is extremely informative. Thank you.
My one question is, how can you share this? Is it a link? Is it a?
Yeah, it's a link.
Okay.
Yep.
If you would share it with the commission. We need to study.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun than the PowerPoint.
David has a PowerPoint to share with us.
More entertaining than trying to sift through spreadsheets.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, very
Yeah,
helpful.
that's great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good, excellent.
It was not an hour and a half, so.
Right.
Oh, wait, I can give you performance standards and I got more time.
Great, thanks.
Well done.
David's presentation is what, 8 stations and 7-man staffing?
That's the way this guy thinks.
Fewer and fewer, it's gonna be the later it gets and the faster you wanna get home.
Yeah. Fire station has a flag instead of a pole.
You might have one of those in it. I wanna put a slide.
Is there any further questions?
I do.
Here, there's a donation from
Colony,
Tony.
pretty substantial one.
Yeah.
Dial into the meeting.
Is there a motion on the
I
26th?
don't know that everybody's hearing you.
Sorry, there's a donation from Colony.
Motion to accept the donation.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a discussion
Oh,
on this. This donation here, especially one this size, that end up going back into the general fund?
$26,500.
Where would the colony donate?
From the hot oil run?
Yeah.
Trying to set up. Historically, it's going.
David, I think I.
It's right at the end. Thank you.
What's the question? The donation, like from Colony, for the 26.5, does that go back into the general fund? Does that go into the fire department fund? How does that get?
There's a separate donation account that goes into.
Okay.
It's segregated, yeah, I mean, it's pooled funds, but it's a separate account for tracking purposes.
Right, exactly, I mean,
For the fire department.
for the fire
The
department.
fire department has a separate fund that we
My
account for.
question is, as that fund starts to build up, are there then deductions made from the budget, the fire department budget?
Historically, there.
So the fire department and the chief's office can request specific items to come out of donation funds,
Correct.
which they do.
Yeah.
You know, and then we draw down. I'll give you one example would be at the equipment here was donated.
Yep.
We required a moving company to do it.
Yep.
Non-budgeted, and.
So that came out of,
We determined it was in the spirit of, you know,
Yep.
that you use donated funds for. There is a policy, we are in the process townwide of trying to update the policy. So we've tried to sort of slow some of the expenditures. In fact, our primary objective is to really, if donated funds come in, to not supplant budget. I mean, there have been instances this year in that I sign off ultimately before donation funds get expended, where I've said, hey, we're gonna use them, it's not budgeted, but please budget for that next year, because it's the type of thing that should be budgeted. People aren't donating money for you to do something that should just be in your budget. Let's work to get your budget where it needs to be so that we do more enhancements with that, if that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely.
It's totally separated and tracked separately.
Yeah, I think the concern previously was making sure that donations that were meant to the fire
They don't go to somebody else.
end up in like an operational fund.
They're separate.
That would be nice.
Hot tub? Any that would be.
Outdoor one. Yeah, I don't want it to get all moldy inside. No, cold plunges.
We get the hot tub donated, not the cash.
Made and seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Guys have it.
Get a hot tub.
What's that?
Old business charter.
No, we still got old business and new business, and then we go to executive session.
I thought I heard.
No,
It's a colony grill donation.
Yes, if you go to the minutes from the last meeting, item number halfway down the page,
what page?
page 4 of the minutes of the last meeting has the recap that we need. Ultimately, I think we need to send a letter to the Charter Revision Commission about these things. The first one, residency requirement for the fire and police chief. The first selectman is already on record recommending that be changed to, David, I don't remember the language, but essentially it's some reasonable standard of time kind of thing that is not a geographic boundary. And so I would recommend that we do the same. We may, in the longer term, want to help brainstorm what that is. I think we should, based on fire response kinds of needs. Article 9, I don't know why it's there, and it's so unclear. And I think the recommendation is to determine whether it's needed or, and if it is, to then clarify the language. It has this thing about we're involved in labor or not. Have you ever read that, Bill?
What's that?
Article 9, paragraph 22 of the charter
have to read it to me. I don't know by
I have
by
to get
chapter
it.
verse.
Hang on. I can do that. If I come off airplane mode. Copyrighted charter with me this time. Good. Food, I want charter.
What is this in regards to?
Charter reform.
Charter reform is a section of the charter that impacts the fire department / commission. Maybe this is the way to do it. Unfortunately, I'm not getting great response. Ah, here we go.
If you want to send it to me, I could look at it.
Yeah,
then.
You see where
it sounds to me like it says we are involved in labor and we aren't involved in labor.
For the longest time, you were part of the grievance process.
Right, I was here for that. Here we go, charter, I just got it.
So I think one of the biggest issues that the charter has as a whole is that oftentimes sections are literally run in absolute contradiction to each other.
Yes, there were sections here in that.
And then they also run in contradiction at times to state statute. It's not just a fire commission issue. Then even further, they now run in contradiction at times to town ordinances, because then
Right.
town ordinances get put into place. So there's one, all the updates in the charter for this, and then there's also a separate process that at some point will take place, which there's services that basically go through even your town code to then try to mirror that as things have changed, whether it's statute or charter. So first step is charter, but then code gets reviewed too.
Okay.
That's-
22. Section. Section C, departmental discipline, subject contrary provision of the collective bargaining agreement. Disobedience or unlawful orders of the fire chief, et cetera. The fire chief shall have the power without consultation for suspension for certain things. And it goes on, and it's,
Yes, so
at some point it says,
the
subject
only,
to contract.
the chief can only discipline up to
Right.
2 days.
Right.
Anything further than that, only you can do. So the chief can't fire or suspend for more than 2 days. That's. So if it was someone to be terminated or a lengthy suspension, they would have to bring it before you guys.
Right. Yes.
And then my grievance process would be the same. It'd go from the chief, then you would do the suspension, but the grievance process wouldn't include you. I would just be here during, as you pass judgment. I would then take that to human resources and then to the state. But the only one who can do more than 2 days is you guys.
Article 9, paragraph 22, paragraph D, in 22, describes what I think is the way we operate, which is the fire chief will report to the first selectman on matters of administration and operation and to the fire commission on the matters of policy. It's pretty much the way we work. But Article 10 says something completely different. Paragraph B says, where is it? That the commission is responsible for essentially day-to-day administration, including locations of fire hydrants.
Sounds important.
We have nothing to do with that.
Tons of them.
And so I think there's some things here we want to have removed because they don't represent the way we operate or even have the capacity to operate. And now maybe the opportunity to get it cleared up. There's also some interesting legal precedent that article could take problems on, because there is a case from 1983-4 that was the city of Bridgeport against Superintendent Joe Walsh, for those of you that are old timers around here, where Len Pale as mayor, my father is the labor lawyer, we're trying to get Joe out of the police chief role because in the Bridgeport charter, superintendent of police was a lifetime appointment. Talk about scary. And
Union president.
pardon?
It's how I feel about being union president.
And ultimately, they tried to just force retire him. That didn't work, so they had to then bring him up on mismanagement. And I was directly involved in the department at the time. There was huge mismanagement. The charter said that the commission was responsible for management of the department, not the chief. Now, I've been told by the lawyers for the last charter revision that the state statutes have changed and that's no longer applied, except nobody provided the information on what that actually was. And I think we may need town council because it may affect police, it may affect other things where it makes the chain of command on day-to-day operations muddy and potentially creates liability for the town as a result. So I think we're sort of burned out. So I'm not sure that we want to go into this tonight. We do have time.
I do have one more point that's not listed here,
But
and I didn't see it, and I haven't read the charter in a while. But there are an occasion, and I don't know if it's in the charter or where it came from, where we are asked to extend sick leave for firefighters.
That's in that's in our contract.
That's in the contract.
Yeah.
So as we work with the charter revision, we also need to, I guess, refer back to the contract all the time to make sure some changes that could develop in charter revision does not go against the contract.
Right, if they make changes, I don't think they're
No.
Yeah,
looking at that.
well, and the other thing is the contract had superseded anyway.
What supersedes what?
The contract supersedes the charter.
It does.
And that's the language in the charter, actually acknowledges the contracts.
Okay. Okay, because that was, I could not get that answer a lot of times.
Yeah, no, it's a contract.
You know, what, you know, cause.
Recent negotiations, they tried to change some of that.
Okay.
They were unsuccessful.
Then I got nothing else.
So I guess a proposal to the,
10.6.
okay, so there's a typo.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fire commission will have general management and supervision of the department on, and of all property and equipment used in connection with the operation of the department, including hydrants used for fire purposes.
Yes.
No,
But we have supervision,
everything's for sale.
but we have supervision of them.
Oh, it's good.
So, do a couple of you want to potentially work with me and take a stab at drafting a proposal? Good. I'm hearing yes, so you're nominated. That's okay with the chair.
You got voluntold, is it, we're, let's do it.
Well, you had some thoughts on it. Okay, then let's move on.
I'd be happy to work with you.
Okay, so three of us will come back with a proposal.
Mr. Becker, on facilities and equipment.
Not as exciting as total, but some handouts, we'll attempt to put it up on the screen.
Feel full.
Driving.
Certainly, David, certainly.
It's way over there. Alright, I'm gonna attempt to share.
I think they didn't want to.
Yes, pieces to it.
Yeah, we don't need no money, we need.
Here we go. Pass on. Oops.
You wait.
So, the request was to talk about the capital, mostly around the firehouses. There was a meeting a couple of months ago around the Capital Summit time, where I believe there was an attempt to walk through I was not here, I had watched it after. There was an attempt to walk through all the spreadsheets that hold the capital plan. Within that, I'd say some of the information was right, some of the information wasn't, no fault of anybody discussing it, more, just understanding of, where we are and why it's there, and there's a lot to it. So I'm gonna walk through quickly. Some of this you'll be able to just take home and by reading. I'll also get a version of these pages that's a little bit cleaner scanned, and they can put it on fire, the backup, so very accessible that way as well. DC Barry actually put this together when they did the tour for the Board of Finance. So this is this first packet of items. Station history is he's got ownership on that one. He's got, and I don't think today we have to do too much of walking through this, but this is, it's a high level history of stations, and it gives you, I think it, helpful. And so 1 through 5, and so he walks through what's there. I think most of you are pretty familiar with what's there, but this gives you a little bit more Board of Finance, who doesn't know what's in what station. But it gives you an opportunity, get a visual, get a little history. He's got the age in there, which I think is, is helpful. General idea of, some basic work in there may not have been done recently in it. One thing to note in the firehouses, and this does list it, is there are numerous pieces of equipment, trailers, specialized pieces of equipment that are inside and outside of these stations. I'm not sure that we're gonna ultimately get to the point that every single trailer everywhere is kept indoors, but obviously the life of the equipment, you know, even simply storage and the availability, you know, is certainly affected by whether or not it's stored inside and outside, right? You're in the middle of a blizzard and you need to get the hazmat trailer that happens to be stored outside somewhere. You know, it just is another thing. How many winters does it go through? There's a maintenance cost to it. You know, so I always, you know, say when it comes to, it's like building a bonus room over a garage. Do you take it in at least, throw some basic work? If you're sitting there, high value, you know, again, we talk, a lot of times, not just on the stations, but in meetings, you'll hear me oftentimes talk about, you know, the high ROI decisions. You can spend $100,000 on something, and then for $2,000 extra, you're gonna get oftentimes that little margin that you get exponential value on your dollars. So, a big goal is to, as many instances as possible, move some of that equipment inside. Right now, we are bursting at the seams at all the stations. We're gonna try to take the edge off of that as best as we can. So next. So I'm gonna go to ARPA next. Just give you an idea of, so we're gonna walk through more than just the stations. When I hit some of these schedules, they have numerous items that are on there. So on the ARPA schedule, there are some things that the fire department has recently been, very of within ARPA. One of them is $370,000 towards the fire station renovations. And that includes, that's 15,000 per station. And it includes the fire apparatus maintenance division. So the idea here is that we're looking to move it outside of station 2, freeing up the space at station 2. That site, that area, if anybody, I don't know, some tours have been in there. But that is, you know, it's bursting at the seams. Whether it's equipment that's up there for repairs or additional spare equipment. You know, and again, everything's getting bigger. So one example is, you know, the car 33, which is the spare car, the old car, Tahoe, Suburban, bigger Suburban, pickup, bigger pick, you know, it just, now you've got a 3 and a 33 and fine ones in their bay, but you used to fit between trucks. Now it's getting tighter and the trucks are getting bigger, and that's a problem. So things are ended up in, you know, outside or in spare areas, and it's an issue. And so the idea, you know, is that you recapture all that space, and then you say, you know, the reality is as a maintenance division, plus when you talk about all the spare, you know, maybe you build a 6, 7, or even 8-bay station. And again, build a 6-bay, or not station, but you're gonna build a 6-bay fire apparatus maintenance division. Get the space to build 2 more bays, and there's simply storage bays on there. That's scaling up at you know, at your, again, it's like your high ROI scale up.
And less controversial than station.
Yeah, and it's kind of beginning to move towards, you know, you can't future proof, but you can certainly future, you know, resistant something. Best attempt. So so this provides $280,000 towards the initial, towards basically design and full construction, 100% construction and costed out documents for station 4, the initial. The idea is if we get this done, it is the station that needs the most work. It's probably the most or complex. It also is one of the stations that already has you know, that initial schematic that needs some updating, but is generally ready to go. the idea would be to do that one first, get it off the ground. We'll get into it later in some of the schedules and our timelines, but the hope would be that we'd authorize it in 4 or 5 months from now, and we'd be able to do a initial round of actual bonding on those dollars in fiscal '26. And so this allocated enough money for them to encumber by 12/31 and get going on, full costed out. So the idea is we're really trying to move away from less accurate numbers when we go for actual bonding as well. So, or the full authorization. We don't want to say it's a $2.5 million project and it turns into a $4 million project, and we gotta go back and ask for more money. And so we're really trying to get more accurate. So same applies for the initial 15,000 per station allocations. So this is 280 plus another 15, so it goes to 295, and then basically 15,000 per other station plus fire apparatus. And we realize that one station might be 20, one station might be 10, but it's a pool that will go to an architectural firm to do all of the design phase. So that's item number 3. Just to highlight here, we did add funds in the recently for the radio project to the tune of $150,000 for 10 VRX repeaters. It was a deficit and it's a safety item, so we wanted to make sure to get that moving. So ARPA was a good pathway for that. Just trying to see what other items. In the electric car charging stations, and I think slightly earlier in the schedule, there's also the department's going to be the recipient of a electric vehicle. 2 of those now, but police got 3 and fire got 1, and they're going to pilot having electric vehicles. They're patrol rated Chevy Blazers. So
Yeah, item 9.
goes in there as well. And there were a couple others, like at one point, the staff vehicles was in there. There have been some station. I think that's, well, the boat was the other one. So item number 25, which is on page 3 of the ARPA schedule, is the boat. So the boat was $562,000. We utilized ARPA with insurance funds. So and the internal service fund will take risk and has been paying the rental fees when we do have a rental boat. So but that was something that may have, typically, I mean, again, having ARPA was helpful, and might have had to wait until a little bit later to try and bond it and figure out. So move to another, and if there's questions, stop. So back into, I'll show you really just quickly some of the documents. In the 8.5 by 11 sheet, the second half of the documents behind various items. Just some of our ARPA backup recently related to the firehouse renovations, but we used this. So these are just, we had asked for some preliminary basis to get to those figures. This was provided by a firm that we work with. And then also this is the letter for the so let's say ARPA, where we got away with this, knowing moving forward. We asked for money, but it's something we were able to quickly be able to do. So I'm gonna go to the bigger schedules next. This is the town's capital plan. So what I have on the screen here is gonna be actually the full packet, the one capital planning workshop for the Board of Finance. This is what the administration had put. So I wanna hedge this the same way as we hedge this sort of at every one of the meetings, right? We are still, just as an administration, at a phase where we are loading a lot of things in. We are still, I mean, every day trying to information gather on what is out there, what's been missed, what hasn't ever made it onto the schedules. We're still formulating the fact that people are asking for things, and I know, we've taken some hits. It's like, oh, this is the plan, and we never learn how to say no. No, we're gonna have to say no, we're gonna have to say not right now. But what we've tried to do here is get everything onto the plan. This is not just fire, this is across town, and try to really put some contingency factors in and understand why escalation factors are or aren't in these numbers. Bond timing, people come to you and they'll say, $4 million in 2027, and they just drop it on the schedule. Well, it turns out that the project is approved in 27, and they're not even gonna spend a dime until 28, and it's gonna take 28, 29, and 30 to get the project done. Well, those make a big difference in how we plan things out. If I think in 27, we have to spend that bond that 4 million, you might be turning around and telling the fire department no because of it. Because you go, well, I'm already maxed, now I have to push your project. Then you get to 27, you don't make that decision. So we're really trying to dial that in. The same applies for the fire department. It applies for these stations, it applies to the trucks. So one of the things that we're working through, and we plan by February, and then at the latest for the March approval process window, to finally sort of strip out the words at the very top, preliminary and tentative for discussion purposes only. We've been putting that on since last February. By this February, we want to start to review that and say, this is a living, breathing document, but we own what's here. We are confident, in it, and this is our plan. So things that have changed with the fire trucks. Used to buy an engine for 500, then 600, now it's $1 million. Now they're escalating at every single turn. The next one's gonna break $1 million. And for all intents and purposes, while inflation may go down and while all the technical schools may have tons of fabricators and things might get better, at this point, we have no basis to assume that in the next 10 years that's going to occur. So we're going off what we have, and so we have escalated these projects at some pretty hefty costs. Now that guards them and guards our overall plan. And we are taking a position on the plan that we want to be much more, we want to add a lot of those escalators, and we're much more prepared for that across the board. And if it goes in our favor, we can have that discussion. Is it ultimate savings? Is it moving other pieces, other things that, where do we go from that? The other piece then that we're working right now on is, it takes 3 years to get a fire truck. So we're trying to sort out, when do we make the payment on the 3 years? Because you're planning something, assuming that you're making a bond decision in a particular year, and we were still planning, essentially assuming that it was happening without all the escalations and with a payment timeline and a delivery timeline that is totally blown out of the water. So I caution that some of these may change, but we took our first stab at, how do we start to try to escalate these and move some of the timelines. There's other minor nuances, I think, in how spare apparatus is used and things that as we do this, we may over the next few months start to shift it. But a lot of that has gone into it. The same, we actually hope to be able to take the firehouses and move them up. Right now, they're sort of cascaded out over the 10-year window. We believe that there's numerous reasons why, not only that we should, but that we most likely can start to reel that in a little bit. Took the first pass as spread them out, do them one by one. We actually believe that most likely the way it will work is large station, small station, large station, small station, some amount of that. There's also some timing pieces that go into it. So, right now on the public safety, not complex that we ultimately want to make into a complex, which people have talked about it for 10 years, is Operation Hope. At some point, Operation Hope is working towards, and the town has been working with them on some solutions.
Please.
And that changes, the whole thing. So, do we use the space? Do we does it go down and become parking? Does it, what do we do with that, right? Right off the bat, we're in better shape simply by closing it and making a closed complex and saying it's public safety only. It alleviates numerous things in that area by doing things like that. So, those are timeline things. You do station one if you're gonna put, office space in a different spot versus add-on. Same, can't do station two until you do the apparatus maintenance, right? So you've got to kind of balance that. The fire department is first place that you see the fire department is on page 4, which is page 1 on the handout. See it about 1, 2, 3, 4 lines and 5 lines down. So these are our approved projects and they show how far things are in motion. And what you can see here is that the projects that have been approved here, they're in motion. One of them was discussed, earlier today. Delivery is expected in the springtime. So one of the big things that we're also trying to do just as a town is we have all these projects that get approved, they just sit. Some of them we bond and then we pay and it's it. So we're trying to get them moving too, right? So.
Even I'm gonna interrupt for a minute, because this is about trucks, so maybe then. Have we really started to change our planning trucks? The idea that we've been talking about off and on all weekend, or all evening, is we have many more 6-story buildings. We have 1 ladder. Is that started to be incorporated into the longer term plan? We need to change equipment.
Yeah, we haven't taken, at least in this, we haven't taken into account in primary apparatus, moving away from that. I will say that some of the things that we started to take into account that we want to make some next steps are, things like accelerating, that's not ladders, but accelerating, like next moves as we move around is accelerating the rescue and accelerating probably the replacement on engine 1 as well. And that engine 1 currently is set up as a quint and we need to evaluate. So for instance, right now, the old Rescue 1, which is Rescue 2, which has been the old Rescue 2 for almost 15 years now, 20, right?
2 years, right?
So, yeah, and so, there's talk about as a support vehicle starting to potentially use that, but you can't even move that into support until the current Rescue 1 becomes the spare Rescue 1. So there's pinch points before we even start talking about, we're gonna get another ladder, or it's like you've got these support pinch points that we need to do. And we need to,
I think-
start moving. in
Oh,
those.
I think what Dorothy is saying is that the model's changed. Right, and it's so like this is great that we're going down this, but we're prepared for World War I when World War II is about to happen. Right, like we're not digging the Maginot Trench isn't gonna keep Germany out, right? So we're gonna have all these really big, you don't have a ladder to get up to them.
And we have them now.
Yeah, I mean, so we don't,
I don't think David's gonna have the answer to your guys' question.
yeah, I think you're,
And I'm not expecting
Thanks.
that.
It's a statement.
I'm not expecting.
Yeah, no.
I'm expecting a change in the process to start to address that.
So here's the thing, if tomorrow we wanted to buy a new, and we had plenty of money, we wanted to buy a new ladder. And it's a new ladder to put it in service as a second ladder, you have to hire 4 lieutenants and 8 firefighters, and if you wanted to staff it as 4, you'd have to hire 12.
Right.
We're trying, I mean, part of this is, so if you, the question is do you have, are you this is a 10-year schedule, first off.
Yeah.
So is it happening in the next 10 years? And you know, this gets to writing, and I think that the fire department, commission, administration, everybody together, right? I mean, you know, in partnership with the union, everybody's got to write, what's the strategic plan for the Fairfield Fire Department for the next 20 years or 30 years, and then how does it wrap around that? And that goes way beyond like your just normal studies and whatnot. It has to have some just flat out vision in it. It's got to put a goalpost that says, even if it's not in here, there's a evaluation that says it might be year 12, but we're moving to, right? And I think that that involves, you know, and I would take this beyond, you know, where Bill had it before, but it takes you to things that we're cognizant of, you know, potentially a second battalion chief position, which involves, you know, another firefighter position at a minimum as well. Full-time safety officer, does that full-time safety officer, you know, perhaps get a driver? And there's some ways and you know, there's some ways within that where you can also plug some of the staffing holes on your way to all these other, right? Because you're getting more bodies and you're getting them mobile. And you know, again, a lot of imperfect solutions, but it starts to get you marching there. So right now, in a 10-year plan, I don't necessarily see that second ladder, but a replacement to, and again, part of it is so avoid running your equipment into the ground, so your spares are there, because one of the problems that we had, I had a couple weeks ago was, you go, okay, well, we technically have 3 sticks in town, but literally all break for one reason or another. It's a confluence of events that's rare, but it can happen. So, you know, I love the Quint or not love the Quint, but even if you replace it with another Quint, at least you have another, I'm just saying, at least you have another, right? But again, you know, it's interesting because you have the conversation about, I'm not a massive fan of it either, but if you're gonna have the conversation of your 4 personnel, it is interesting because of all the different trucks. If you actually want to call it a Quint versus an engine, and you actually want to operate it right, you need to be putting more people on that.
I'd like to let it on fire.
So, look, so one of the things, and I think in our budget discussions that we're gonna continue to do, and I think that the administration has tried to also stress is, you know, upstaffing as necessary, getting the spare equipment in and active as necessary. We've been, you know, reasonably fortunate in things, but we're very cognizant of, you know, storms, public safety events, things like that, you know, that we need in order to do that. You know, this past weekend being one where, you know, where I couldn't have been any more direct, no matter who's ultimately paying the bill, get the people, get them down there. And we're very fortunate in order that we were able to do that. But those are the types of things that we're gonna continue just on the administration side. And I think that, you know, they'd agree, that's a market shift from the past few decades of the approach. And those do plug holes shorter term. So that's a separate conversation, but it's tied into how we at least manage what we have.
We're not getting any answers tonight, not that I'm expecting you, but I think the point you're making is we have a 10-year budget outlook now for capital expense potential bonding. There is no second or new ladder that's in there for right now. We're seeing massive builds. It begs the question, is there a need or justification for a second ladder that can be articulated based on the high rises that are coming in buildings, or at least long taller buildings? I think it's an open question that needs to get answered. And it's not in the plan now. Well, it's not in the plan now. If it needs to go in there because we need a second ladder there. I think not having the proper staffing and then trying to use a Quint, which is a POS, as a fix instead of a new engine and a proper ladder and a tower ladder for that matter, probably not the best idea. I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, yeah, so I mean, I think there's a longer term strategic look. I think that we were running this problem, I mean, you brought up World War I, we'll break it the current. We have a problem right now. China's looking to close the Taiwan Strait. We have an acquisition cycle for the Pentagon, and we can't build any more Navy ships the period that they're looking to close us, and we are shit out of luck, for lack of a better term. We end up with a bunch more of these tall apartment buildings in a 10-year look we're committed to. We don't have another ladder or something else that we need. We have a problem. So, but that needs to be modified. I think we need to take a look at that to Dorothea's point.
Yeah, and it may not be more trucks necessarily. It may be that we're buying different trucks because we have to find a way, and I'm not saying we have to. That's a professional input thing. But I think we need to actually evaluate at what point does it become critical, given the, what was it, 500 to 1,000 things that are under construction or planning now.
Strategic, I think getting to the point of a strategic vision, having to be a long-term vision, understand it's adaptable over time, but also goes past your 10-year window. If it's in year 12, 2 years from now, that's in year 10 on the schedule. But also 2 years from now, when it shows up on 10, you've distributed and spoken on that vision. Those are the types of things that we can.
Town and firefighter safety have to be the two priorities going forward for all of it. That's gotta drive it.
So on the next page, page 5, it shows right now 217, halfway down under FD. 217 is currently, this is your under 500 and upcoming projects, under $1 million upcoming projects. So Marine 217, 350,000. I believe that had been listed at the time at 250. It's highlighted because we actually increased the dollar amount on it. I actually slightly believe that will go up some as we look at what we're going to end up doing with it. But for now, we took that pass back in September and at least making an increase with it. We left the fire station 500,000 in FY 2029. Or that, I think that was new, but we put that, it's marked. A smaller project that station doesn't necessarily need as much. Again, we're gonna look at that, and that number is going to change, I guess is my. So car 3 as an example. So we put a car 3 replacement in 2029. That number is bigger. The last car 3, I think, was 130, I think. We took an escalator. We basically. No, actually, well, no, they had escalated it already. We added 35,000 more to the escalation that they had placed in it because we started looking at what it had actually been. We quantified that out and it adds up really quickly. But the reality is a car 3 in 2029 is probably going to cost you close to that. So if it comes in at 190, that's great, but we guarded at 210 based upon best available information. So if we go to, let's skip 2 pages in the main spreadsheet, but your next one, which is page number 7. This is where things start to change. So LSN 1.5, so you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down is where fire starts. So this is going to be where you're going to kind of see the bulk of your schedule showing up here. So this is going to be your over $1 million projects. So as an example, this project, we currently have it broken out that if we get approved, the last pumper was 980,000, right? But based upon best available information, we believe we're actually looking at 1.2 million right now. The way that we did this was we split it, that we would bond it over the 2 years. But again, and by the time we go for approval and in March, we'll have a better idea. Thanks. We'll have a better idea, but the question that we have right now, and it does dictate what do you do with other things? Right. Are we laying the cash out at year 3 when we make a payment, or will they give us this discount if we pay it up front? Right now, we put it in and we split it over the 2 years and we marked it off as 1.2. But by the time we go for the approval in March, we'll have a better idea. One of the big shifts using Houston Galveston buying, which former Sachin Chief Bisson, big driver over overseeing putting that in place, and you, did you do that? Richard?
Yes, yes, that was my-
Okay, you got it mostly, okay, we'll go with you've done that, I thought. There you go. So the Houston Galveston has allowed us to start to really just hopefully buy computers and for the most part, and that is us avoiding the low bidder, random, every single truck is different, all those sorts of issues. We've been having success with that. So that actually also should allow us to work with them on, when we're buying from you, what does it look like? And get a better handle on that. So by the time we come out for this, we'll have that clarity, and then we'll be able to layer in our actual bonding pieces out. So right below that is, I think that's important. $1.2 million for a pumper padded into here is a major number, right? That's something that pre-COVID, we would have just laughed you out of the room by a mile over. And it does play into effect when you come further down in the schedule, and we'll get there. So I'll speed up too, because we're after like 9 now. So the next one is Fire Station 4 renovation. We put 500,000 into 26, and then 1.5 and 1.5 into 27 and 28. Again, subject to change, but we'll have a better idea of what the timeline looks like and what the cash flow needs are by the time we ask for it. But we want to get these in, and we want to get them in with much more substantial numbers. This is a project that's been on and off the schedules over the last 15, 20 years at, 4.5 million, 1 million, 2 million. It's on here and it's real. There's ARP allocation. The project's actually moving forward. And that's, the first part of it. So the fire station apparatus maintenance, we put that down at $3 million. We split that over 1.5 in the next piece. So again, a lot of that's gonna change some. We'll have some better ideas on that. So Rescue 1, so I spoke about that a little while ago. So these are the interesting ones. I mean, if we could do this, right, and we can maybe work out that we're actually not gonna make the payment or less payments towards it for a few years and how we do this. I'm actually looking this year to actually go for the approval on Rescue 1, because Rescue 1 is gonna take it's gonna take time to design, it's gonna take time to actually go out and get it built. It's a few years to do that, but it's now holding up, potentially, the dive team looking to Rescue 2 as a support vehicle, because that's still the Rescue 1 backup, even though the truck's been there. I was in service when I started, and you start right, like it's time that it moves to a support vehicle at best, and then eventually you're gonna wanna look at how you deal with that. So we used 1.65. We took prior numbers that were in there, we escalated them up, try to get a little bit more realistic, on that. Our main goal was to not to lowball these numbers anymore. So next up, you see in 2028, the next pumper at 1.495. We loaded it into the schedule. We didn't try to break it up or imagine that we have any idea how our payments are gonna go just yet. But think about that for a second. We were at 980, 1.2, 1.495, right? But if you look at best available information as of right now, there's a reason that we're putting numbers like that in. We hope that those numbers are wrong. We hope that it levels off. But if it doesn't, we don't want to find ourselves not planning accordingly. So we next up have Fire Station 1 at 1.5, 1.5. So that's a total of 3 million. So when I talked about doing big, big is gonna be 4s, 1s, and the apparatus maintenance. Your smalls, quote unquote, or small or medium are gonna be 3s, 2s, and 5s. 2s is big, but there's a lot that's been done, and it's gonna be more of a recapture as of right now. So next pumper is LSN 17. We do that the next year, so the jump isn't as big, but it goes to 168, right? So then this is your town ladder at 2.75, but that's assuming replacing the ladder that we have now on its generally normal timeline. Again, what we need to now look at is that 3 years and where our payments are, and try to know, the whole schedule kind of gets changed. Even if it's that we make sure our delivery schedule's right, our ordering schedule and our payment schedule gets changed. But it, you know, a 2.75 number on a ladder in FY 30 sounds crazy, but when you start to back the numbers in, hey, it's just not. And it's scary, but it's not. So Station 5, you know, we call that's kind of the medium one, and so that's next up at 1.75, and it's a little bit further out. So I call that medium because we believe that we're gonna have to do a space, you know, some sort of an addition. So probably not gonna need to do an addition at 2s, probably not gonna need to do an addition at 3s, probably gonna need to do an addition at 5s. We're already seeing the stresses of having, you know, 4 firefighters there. We know that bay space is tight. Even if you wanna put a spare back up there, the gear lockers and decon areas, it's getting tight. The site has the ability to have, you know, some amount of a bump out, even if it's just a rough, you know, apparatus, you know, type bump out space. So we wanted to plan ahead for doing something like that in our design phase. So here's your crazy number. If you get out to FY 32, Pumper LSN 18, $2.16 million. But that's 8 years from now, and it's using best available information on the escalation. Again, I hope that it doesn't cost anywhere near that. But I don't want to find out that we have a schedule, because if you looked at the schedule before, it was calling that one out there, you know, I think it was about $700,000 or $800,000 less. So current best available, if our best available changes, we'll lower it, but we're going to guard ourselves and the fire department and its dollars on the capital schedule and our planning for the overall town. The next item that's listed, just so everybody knows, is mobile command shift replacement. It's a PDFD item, because if combined, it wouldn't just be the police department. And we're certainly gonna be looking for funding sources on that. Fire would be, that's something that we most likely can, but we do need to put on a schedule. That vehicle is from the mid-90s and is inadequate, and it's underutilized, largely because of its inadequacies at this point. We did do 5 or 6 years ago, I spearheaded managing that at the time, and the department put a bunch of money into it and made it better, but that's a PDFD item, if you will, in the future. We want to make sure that that's truly for unified command when necessary. So moving from there, there are other schedules that I had included in the packet. But by and large, they were the ARPA really that I already showed you. That was the last 4 pages. The 1 page after this is really just the authorized, which I showed you earlier on. So that covers where we're at. Things that aren't on this schedule or will be on the next schedule will be station 3 is the only one that didn't actually get onto the schedule, but that part of it was like absolute like last final revisions crunch time and where we laid the numbers out. We made clear that we have in the ARPA the allocation, so no, Joe, station 3 is not getting done. It's getting done in the next few years for sure. But it's we'll be adding that. We'll be tweaking the timeline. We'll actually be trying to condense the timeline for the firehouse is getting done. Our personnel, the new stations and the conditions across the board are unacceptable. And we are at the stage where we are, making, short-term gaps on shower pan, decisions, and wishing, that we knew if we wanted to make the short or the medium or the long, station 1, the bathrooms, I mean, all of these different items, they need to be done. And we believe that we can fit them in our overall plan responsibly and make it happen. So design dollars go a long way in getting us further conversation. So,
Thank you.
Any questions?
I just wanna make a comment on station 3. If you look at it, it says garage section was added 20 years ago, 20+ years ago. I was on that committee. That was supposed to be a 5-year gap. That was just supposed to, so they can do a new building, because where the apparatus was parked, we were pretty close to getting to the apparatus into the basement where it was, so we had to move things over. But that was supposed to be a 5-year gap, and yeah, 20+ years.
I just want to comment, I appreciate the presentation tonight and this information shared with us and just our short-term suggestions and just back and forth, I think is gonna make, to keep doing this, it's gonna make it more productive and improve the town's safety and quality of life for our firefighters, so thank you, continue.
Commissioner.
One quick question, David, can you tell me, you indicated that you were going for something this year.
The
How much
plan,
is that?
the plan is station 4 and at least another, one of the engines and possibly moving up, the rescue.
Very good.
So those are the larger items we're attempting to wrap into this year's approval process.
In 2024.
Yes, well, it's so this year, I would say this year is in this upcoming, which is technically in 2025, because it's out of
Next 2 weeks.
and it's labeled as 2026 because it's fiscal 26.
Fiscal 26.
Fiscal 26, but fiscal 26 begins July 1, but approvals for items that are bonded, quote unquote, in the fiscal 26 schedule happen, and they're really starting in 25,
Very good.
so,
Thank you.
yes.
All right, so moving on.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Next item under new business, elected officers.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the nominating committee got together remotely and in person. And the recommendations of the nominating committee were chairperson, Commissioner Brennan, and for secretary, Commissioner Fetterman. And that's the recommendation of the nominating committee.
Thank you. Is there a nomination for chair? Probably vote on them separately.
Oh, okay, so I nominate Commissioner Brennan for chair.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Commissioner Cletus, are there any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor of Commissioner Brennan as the chair, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I would point out to all of you, by the way, that we need to solve the problem that all of you are busy, all of you still work, I don't, full-time. But my term is up December 31st of next year. So you need to be prepared, find a chair.
You got a whole year to do it.
You got a whole year to do it, which is why I'm saying it now.
Chiefs, deputies, chairs, anything else?
Yeah. A ladder truck, Alan.
Ladder track, sure.
Hot tub, that's right. How could I forget?
Staying out of station 5 being last and having kind of a crappy shower.
Shower pants, David was just talking about.
Is there a nomination for secretary?
For secretary, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Fetterman.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Cletus, one second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor of Commissioner Fetterman as the secretary for the next term, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Commissioner Cletus.
Yes.
The 225 meeting dates are in the agenda. You included September 11th, which is the second Thursday of the month of September.
And we've done that in the,
And you've done that in the past. Any discussion on 225 meetings?
No, sir.
motion to adopt.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Cletus, Commissioner Brennan. All those in favor, please say
Aye.
aye. It's unanimous, you guys have it. Is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Cletus. Is there a second?
Aye. Jenny,
You put in-
we need to name personnel that need to
It
be
would
here.
go and be, it doesn't directly involve any.
Good night.
If I could, just because I was gonna mention it during public comment, I should have done it before, but we had the Santa ride at the same time as Santa Con. We didn't fall down drunk. We didn't pee on anybody's houses that I know of. But yeah, well, it's the little things, right? But we raised, it was the biggest one yet. Our charitable raised $40,000.
Wow.
3 trucks and visited 1 billion houses, I think, somewhere around there.
Congratulations.
So $40,000 will be going to the Tommy Fund.
Nice.
We did that in between fires and rescues. Yeah, we had a lot going on. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thanks,
much for the
Clifford.
presentation.
So the,
Change talking about that hot tub while I'm gone.
That's why we're going to executive session.
okay,
I
so
like surprises.
the motion to go into executive session for personnel matters, we need to name Mr. Becker as Chief Operating Officer. Do we need the Deputy
The
Chief?
the chief and the 2 deputy chiefs?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the 2 deputy chiefs, Deputy Chief Case, Deputy Chief Barrett, Chief Dunn, Chief Dunn. And Mr. Becker, would you consider that a friendly method to?
Friendly amendment that I will happily adopt with the Whirlpool CEO to discuss the hot tub.
Second.
Second. All those in favor of the motion to go into executive session with the 4 gentlemen named, please signify by saying
Aye.
aye. The ayes have it, so we will go into executive session to discuss personnel.